turn it over to you for your general update and take it from here.
All right. I appreciate, Ron, your comments. Scott Flippo called me from the Senate side. He called me about 15 minutes ago from the Senate side. They're adding sponsors to the bill. He said that he echoed your same comments, that there is some disagreement or difference of opinion about a special session, but he believes it'll go to the governor late today. And if there is a special session, it would be within the next 2 weeks. And I think that tracks with what you said as well. Okay. And here's the...
Actually, I have another call. In fact, I may have to get off this one because I do have another conference call this evening with some more legislators. So that's probably in the works right now. So thank you.
Okay. Ron, let us know if we can do anything to help in the process of what's going on. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. And here's the better news that the governor announced about an hour and a half ago, in that moving to phase 2 across the state, not by region, on Monday, June the 15th. He commented that he's extended the emergency order to August the 15th. Emphasized the 5 points that we've all been dealing with: social distancing, wearing masks, testing, tracing, and isolation. And he has put a task force together to go to Northwest Arkansas beginning this Friday. I think the governor emphasized the point, and I think it's important for us all to remember that the majority of businesses have been in some sort of phase 2. So this really applies to our dine-in, the dine-in business and restaurants, which it goes to 2/3 capacity. 6-foot physical distancing is required. And he noted, and Dr. Smith added, that the ADH will get details out by late Friday, June the 12th, to again take effect on Monday, June the 15th. This is great news for us. I think it was great news that it's statewide. It's not broken down by regions. And he highlighted the 3 hot spots, if you will, in the state. So this is good news for, especially for us here. And I talked to Matt.
Sammy has got some slides prepared here. I have a slide toward the end I want to talk with you a little bit about.
All right.
Apparently the state's going to phase 2 opening. We're going to make a case to you that case numbers in our region are climbing, and that we're going to try to get folks to be very, very sensitive to what they need to do in the community to protect themselves. So I'll turn this over to Sammy to go over some numbers. I'm going to share with you something that's happening in another state. So Sammy, please go ahead.
Just kind of an update. You know, if you're watching the governor's press release, when you see the numbers that are climbing in the Northwest corridor, we continue to see active cases over in Washington County continue to climb. They're currently at 1,185 cases. Of those, 716 are active. We are corresponding with our Northwest region. The work that we do there is through our disaster preparedness team. We're watching the number of beds that they have. They are having limited ICU beds. We're seeing that across the Northwest region, and we're continuing to see spread throughout those areas. Go ahead and go to the next slide, Bob. Benton County, you can see that they've also increased. Total positive cases are up to almost 1,100, continuing to grow. we're not seeing a decline yet in that. We've talked to resources over there. Mercy Rogers has been full for about 9 days. They're having limited ICU beds. They do have a designated COVID area that is full, and they're reporting that they're continuing to see people come in through the emergency room. Still seeing a lot of patients that aren't sick enough to be admitted, but they're being managed outpatient, which is good. But they're also seeing their inpatient positives go up. Next slide, please. As you can see in Boone County, we're remaining pretty steady. We've still got 7. I will tell you that what we're seeing out of our screening clinic is majority Carroll County positives. I think that just has to do with where they're accessing care. And I also think that we have seen the correlation, and the governor has mentioned it, with the increase in the industry as far as the poultry industry. I know they're looking at that very closely. Many of those have taken measures to try to test some of the individuals. But as Vince is going to mention, the key is keeping people that are sick at home. And we need to really stress that. And I know that's hard when we need a workforce. We're trying to reopen. We're trying desperately to support the economy. But if we've got people that are sick and they're coming to work, then they're just spreading it. Many of the cases we're seeing are coming from households. Carpooling and working together seems to be what we're seeing as far as the spread there. Next slide, please. So this is just kind of an indicator. You can look, the orange is the Northwest region. And so you can see we're kind of on a runaway bobsled there. This was June 7th is the latest data on it. You can see that the the Northeast corridor slowed down a little bit, kind of decreased their cases, and you've had a slow incline on the other subsectors of the state. So as we continue to watch that, that's why we've made some of the decisions we have as far as not opening up the hospital for visitors, and we've continued to limit that foot traffic. As Vince mentioned, that's just one step that we're trying to do to protect the population that we can. As we monitor with these elective procedures, we're being very cautious about who we take to the operating room, because we have statistical data that shows us that these patients that have COVID positive test and then end up in the operating room don't do as well as patients that obviously aren't COVID positive. So in saying that, so another interesting finding is we're seeing about a 5% positivity rate for the patients that are coming to our clinic that are symptomatic, and then they're being tested for COVID-19. About 5% of those are coming back positive. And so in addition to that, the other very interesting finding is that we have seen 0 patients that have come back out of our pre-op screening. So we have not seen an asymptomatic patient come back COVID positive. So I think as we look at that, it's again really important to know that patients who are symptomatic need to be staying at home, and we need to try to encourage that throughout our community. Next slide, please. So this is the data just showing the currently hospitalized patient. What this isn't showing is the number of increased hospitalizations, and that's what we're hearing from hospitals across the state, is that while the number total hospitalized may not be increasing, the hospitalizations as a whole from daily admissions is increasing, and that seems to be what's taxing the healthcare facilities across the Northwest region at this time. Next slide, please. Vince, would you like to take this?
Absolutely. I wanted to give you a little bit of information and kind of put in perspective the statistical analysis that our state is doing. They're presenting their numbers in a manner that says as we increase testing, there are more positive cases, but the positivity rate is remaining low. Below 10% is what they're saying. Here's the problem we have. It's not necessarily the 5% that we should be concerned with. We got to be concerned with the concentration of the cases. Where are they? How many people are actually positive? And then what are those people doing? This little blurb here is taken, I see there's a misspell in it, but this little blurb was taken from what I call Google News for hospitals. This is Becker's Hospital Review. And they usually punch out about 10 specific stories that are important for all the hospital leadership folks to read. In this particular one, Arizona hospitals could run out of beds in July because of COVID-19, public health expert says. Here's the problem. The numbers of cases in Phoenix right now are concentrated to such a level that virtually all of the beds available to care for these patients are being used. Now, that is a huge problem because those patients will have to be cared for somewhere. What we're concerned about, as Sammy mentioned, is that the hospital beds in the Northwest Corridor are being filled with patients who are infected with COVID-19. That could spread to our area. As she mentioned, that in Carroll County, the numbers are climbing pretty rapidly. We've been pretty steady here, but here's a big concern of mine. You walk around our community, people are not wearing masks. They are not social distancing, and they're not paying attention to this. We are ripe for a huge problem. So my plea today is that please try to encourage folks to wear masks, encourage them to keep their hands clean, encourage them to do everything possible, avoid people that are sick. If they have employees that are sick, send them home. We've got to protect ourselves here because we are adjacent to a county with pretty high numbers. That's adjacent to a county that has extremely high numbers. So let's be mindful about what's going on in our community because it's not going to be too far-fetched to say that our Northwest Corridor could run out of hospital beds pretty quick if this thing spreads rapidly. So please be mindful of that when you're opening up your businesses. Be mindful of that when going to restaurants, and just be mindful of that when you're engaging one another. So if you think I'm trying to scare you, I am. So please help each other out, help us out, help yourselves, and pay huge attention to social distancing and means to protect yourselves. So that would be our report for today, Bob.
Vince, that's excellent. A good report, and I think it's a good caution. You're echoing just exactly what the governor and Dr. Smith said an hour ago. And regarding testing, let's look at the next chart, which comes from the Boston Mountain Rural Health Clinic in Marshall. They tested another 82 folks at the JCPenney parking lot last Thursday on June the 4th. 82 tests administered again from all the tests they've done now the last 4 weeks, no positives, which is a tremendous record, I think. I talked to Debbie Ackerson this morning, and she is very surprised. Sammy, I noted that you talked about a 5% positive rate. They haven't found a 1. And so overall, that's great, but it does not give pause to the caution that Vince raised.
Well, and I think you have to, look at the testing criteria. When I say 5% positivity rate, we're talking about symptomatic patients.
Correct. Right. Yeah.
And I believe that Boston Mountain is testing everyone. So that would be symptomatic and symptomatic combined.
That is correct. They're testing everyone.
Yeah. Okay. So the statistics not comparable.
Okay. All right. Main Street businesses. Emily and Joan are not with us today, but I want to emphasize the Small Biz Connection Lunch and Learn tomorrow at the JPH Center from 11:31. Still not too late to register, but we encourage you to do that. The first 15 businesses, in fact, I think we've got 12, are hands-on tutoring on how to use social media to make your business successful. This could not be more important now as we moved into phase 2 for reopening the economy. So this is important. I encourage you to take an opportunity to register for this great program that's being put on by the Small Biz Connection. And you'll see in your chat box, you've got a link to do the registration. Thanks, Wilson. Okay. Next chart. All right, from Jimmy Lewitt, I think you're on. I see you had no additional updates. Have any comments as we scroll through these 6 posters that are available? Don't forget, if your business or industry or manufacturing or our location needs any of these, they're downloadable on our website. We encourage you to take advantage of them. Okay. All right, Dr. Pratt, you're up. Oh, wait a minute. I apologize. I forgot Dr. Josh Keener again. My apologies, Josh.
Bob, you want me to go, or you want me to go to Dr. Keener first?
Let's see if Josh is on.
Okay.
My apologies. I have it in big bold letters here, and I'm not sure that he joined the call though. Josh, if you're on. Okay, Dr. Pratt, if you'd go ahead, please.
Yeah. Well, we're still scheduling for graduation on Friday, July 10th. Again, we're happy to see the level 2 being rolled out by the state, but that doesn't mean that everything's all cool. And we, like Vince and Sammy was saying, we can just forget everything. So we're going to have to continue to be diligent and careful with our safety protocols. One thing I want to share with everyone, we'll be blasting out with the media and all of our avenues, and including the chamber. Looks like around June 24th, I believe that's a Wednesday, we're going to roll out a concrete as plan as we possibly can of what school will look like in August. We're going to do some reconfiguring a little bit in the district, and we're moving some things around, and we want to roll that out to parents, give them a good 8-9 weeks before school starts. And I'll be seeking some input and help from this task force and some of the members of chamber to help us in when we do that. So we're looking to roll out a big rollout on the 24th of June, let everybody and all of our parents know what Harrison schools will look like next August. That's my report, Bob.
Good, that's great. Stuart, that's great news. I think everybody is anticipating that information week after next. Thank you, and the team. I know you're putting in an awful lot of work over there to make that happen. Is Rick Nance on today? Rick, how about Jeff Cantrell? All right, we'll make sure that we get an update from them this coming week, because a lot of the area schools are working as the Harrison Public Schools are in readying their plans for the fall. We'll try to get an update next week. Thank you. All right, Dr. Esters.
Don't have a whole lot to update from last week. We're looking at July 2nd to roll our plan out for the fall, and we'll enter our phase 2 most likely week after next. That simply means bringing folks back for more normal work schedule. Of course, we'll have several different precautions: no shared workspaces, mask, all of those things that are typical. So nothing really new on this side.
Okay, that's all good news as you get ready to announce your activities for the fall. That's good. All right, Bill Knight, you're up for the nonprofit group.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Just a quick note. I know David Graham had reached out to the other churches here from last week, and just basically came back and said everybody's doing really great. They're accustomed to dealing with the mask and social distancing, things like that. But I know the phase 2 kind of help. I think they'll probably help everyone. They're really being cautious. I know some churches are even they'll ask people to wear masks when they come in, but when they sit down, of course, you're still distanced yourself, from everybody else, from other people, but, you can take your mask off at that point. So I'm hearing kind of a little bit of that to kind of test, almost like testing the waters, I guess. But so they're just trying. Everybody wants to get back to normal, of course, and so they're trying to do that. I was actually involved with Circle of Life yesterday because our church sponsored them this week, and it went really well. I talked to Dina Dillard, who said she thought it went really smoothly, and it was pretty easy. We simply, we cooked the food, we had our masks on, we passed it out as takeout. Dave drove through, and Dina had some things to hand them out, give them stuff as well. So they are trying to get done what they can. I did speak to Wade Phillips as far as with Jamie over there at the call, and they're still kind of struggling because they're being controlled by the state office, and so I know they're still restricted on some of the things that they can do. And I know with this what's going on with the phase 2, I know House of Hope we'll be opening up more, and just let people know that we are there. They can get food. We will be taking intakes. We'll be getting some limited funding that will help us to help people, the homeless. Maybe help them get into shelters and things like that. But that's a little bit down the road yet. But we're trying to get ourselves back to normal. But of course, doing it as safely as we can. I don't know if Jerry Jackson, I don't know if the mayor's on, but we actually talked to him about that yesterday. He was actually down at House of Hope along with Wade and Mark Lowry. So we're just trying to move forward down there.
Good. That's great news, Bill. And phase 2 does give you a little bit more capability and the resources. So I know that you look forward to that. And the work that you did, your group did yesterday is most appreciated. Okay, Matt Bell is not with us today on the tourism subgroup, but his reminder is that the Buffalo National River campgrounds, in fact, are open for business. I understand from Mark Faust that was a big event last week. The rivers were packed, the campgrounds were full, which is all good news, and the weather certainly was helpful in that regard. We still have 5 restaurants that are participating in the food purchasing co-op, and that's all good news. If there are others that are on here that would like to participate in that, please reach out to Angela Akers, and she'll work with you in that regard. Okay, finance. Gwen, you're up.
All righty. On PPP, those numbers haven't changed significantly. Still 4.5 million loans issued, totaling 511 billion over the 2 rounds. There are still approximately 130 billion available for funding for more of those loans. The flexibility law was signed. That extends the maturity period from the 2 years to the 5 years. If you have a 2-year deadline right now, it is not an automatic extension. You need to contact your loan facility about a mutual agreement between you and the lender to change that to the 5-year. This also extends the forgiveness period to 24 weeks and the payroll from 75% to 60% on that item. Household income growth is expected to show rebounds in May. The growth in May rose 2.1%, and it was the first increase in 4 months. The small business optimism ticks up in May. Part of that, they're looking at consumers were able to save funds through May, and as we emerge from the lockdown and they feel safe to come out and spend money, we should see some recovery as they are venturing out. Also, on one of the slides, it shows the important problems that small businesses feel they're facing. Number 1 being poor sales. Number 2, quality of labor. The quality of labor has reduced, being number 2 compared to being number 1 last year. And then the types of small businesses that participated in that survey, mainly retail. And then also they are encouraged by the upcoming housing market data. And that main thing is that the forbearance rates were not as high as they had anticipated, and they have maintained to be manageable on that item. And that they're looking to extend the current moratorium on foreclosures, possibly another 30 days, maximum of 2 months, because we can always come back and extend those items. So far things seem to be working, and they are adjusting as we go along. And I probably will continue to see adjustments in all those items that have come up through PPP. And that's all.
On any of the additional banks?
I missed on that part.
Do we have any updates on other banks that have opened? We've got 4 that have restricted lobby openings, right?
Right.
Okay.
That has maintained.
Okay. All right. If you've got any specific questions on finance and on local bank openings, Scott Miller at Anstat Bank is your go-to guy. And I think Gwen had some good news that we're seeing here through the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and the National Federation of Independent Businesses as well, is that the real numbers will come out this month from the full closure in April. We'll see those, but there are some very good indicators. The housing market is really looking good, and that's going to be a major indicator for us. So, Gwen, good to report all around. Questions for Gwen or any of the bankers on the call? Okay, let's go to our next group, Jim Blackwell.
We haven't had a lot of changes. I know we're still working with customers, not suspending for non-pay. We're just trying to work out payment arrangements or get them in touch with people where they can get caught up. But other than that, I think Energy same way, and Windstream, just no major changes as of right now.
All good, Jim. We hope that it might be helpful if you could. I had somebody ask yesterday, and in fact the day before as well, on Monday, actually, are our infrastructure teams here, Energy, Windstream, Black Hills, seeing a decrease in customer payments that is significant, other than what you might expect? Something to consider. Maybe we'll get some data on next week.
I might have to gather more off the top of my cuff. I haven't seen it significant, but I'm just going by my gut feeling. I'll find out and get back with you.
All right. Hey, that's great, Jim. Thanks very much to you and the guys there. Okay. Our next group is our government. I did not see the judge jump on, but I know, Daniel, you're on. Daniel Boland. Any update here from the county? Daniel, I see you're on, but we do not hear you. If you've got a *6 release.
I'm sorry, I was in another meeting real quick. What was the question?
Okay, just any update from the county on anything from the economy reopening? Anything that we need to note?
The hospital said it best. You said it best when we talked about the wearing a mask and social distancing. I did get some information just a few minutes ago for the city of Harrison and the hospital that FEMA has started their DR 4518s. So we need to make sure that the county, the city, and the hospital are putting those numbers into those RPAs, because they're going to fix and start having those meetings. So outside that, that's all I have.
Okay. Sammy, I hope you and Vince got that information. That's good for you, right? Okay. Good. Thanks, Daniel. Appreciate that. Mayor Crow, Terry, you're on. Any update from down south?
No, not really. Nothing to report any different than last week. So okay. We're good.
All right. Thanks, Terry. And let me go back up to Boone County. I apologize. I see we have JP with us today. Where did Glenn go? Glenn, are you still on?
Yeah, I'm on. You were at the quorum court meeting last night, so you saw that most of the reports that came in on our treasury, of course, the sales tax runs about 2 months behind, but it looked pretty good for the 2 months ago when it came in. We've got that up to date. The county offices, most of them are all open. Crystal Grady said that all of her people were doing what they needed to do. There are some restrictions when they go into the courthouse or other county offices. They'll take their temperature, they'll sign in. They're wearing masks in the offices. So we're still using that in the county, but everything's working pretty smooth, and we're starting to see our courts get back up to speed. So hopefully things will be returning as best they can soon.
Good. Thanks, Glenn. Mayor Jerry Jackson.
Yeah. Hey, Bob. Want to thank you for reading the statement last week. I got to join the law enforcement people planning for the protests, so And I think the one good thing that came from the protests, and there were many good things, but one was that we got to take our mind off COVID for probably about 3 or 4 days. So, and we truly did. We were so focused on the protests, and I can't tell you how proud I am of all of the law enforcement officers in the whole region. It was just amazing what took place. And of course, none of that was needed. We had well over 100 threats on Facebook, and none of them happened. But we were prepared, and our own Chief Grady, he kind of led the initiative, and I think he's on the phone. And you want to go ahead, Chief, and give him your thoughts?
Yes, we had a real good turnout. We had great cooperation with the Sheriff's Department. Sheriff Tim Robertson, Chief Deputy Roy Martin was instrumental in putting a lot of this together with us. We worked with the state police, the Arkansas Highway Police, the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission, Probation Pro. We had several resources that were sent to our area. And in a situation like this, I think a lot of things was led by fear of the unknown. I think this just goes to show you how social media can lead to a lot of uneasiness, and absolutely none of it came true. The protest was peaceable, and the protesters, the organizers of the protest, we worked with them. That's all they wanted. They did not want any trouble whatsoever. I want to give them some praise too, because they controlled the individual protesters. If one of them started to get out of line, they would take care of them themselves. They actually policed themselves very well. We did have a large amount of law enforcement on the scene. And I think Mayor Jackson's heard me say this before: you prepare for the worst and hope for the best. But we felt the need to take those threats serious, and just to give the community and the county ease of mind. So everything went very well. Like I said, many thanks to the state police, highway police, game and fish, Probation Pro, 14th Judicial Drug Task Force. It was amazing, and everybody worked together real well during this. So I was very pleased with that. Sheriff Robinson couldn't be with us today. I've tried to call him. They may have something going on, but I was going to try and get him on the call too, but I've been unable to get in touch with him. But everything went well.
I tell you what, I want to echo Chris exactly what the mayor said, and I see a lot of nodding heads on the call today. The work that you and the team did as you organized, it took, there were a lot more than law enforcement. I know that the hospital had their ER on standby. We had the 911 team engaged. It was a great show, and so thankful and blessed that we didn't have to use any of it. So that's what's even more encouraging. But the planning was extraordinary, and I think the community offers a great deal of thanks to you and all of the partners that pulled this together on quick notice, and really didn't have to get engaged, and that's the name of the game. So thanks, Chris, to you, and extend that to Tim and the others as well. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I think this is a reminder. It emphasizes what Vince has said, what Daniel Bolin has said, what we've all talked about. The governor did it today. This is not a public health issue. It's not a pro-business issue. It's both. You cannot compromise getting the economy reopened. You cannot compromise the safety issues that we need to undertake. So please recall this, remember this. By the way, Donna Bramer is here in the office taking notes. Let me ask if, before we close out the call today, and again, I appreciate everybody joining, are there any folks that would like to take an opportunity for any last comments as we go around the horn here? Just go ahead and speak up if you would. All right. I'm going to take that you could get unmuted if you needed to, and that there were no additional comments. Joe, over to you to wrap this up.
Hey, Bob, I've got just one.
Good.
Well, I'm in Little Rock all next week, and I have a committee meeting Wednesday afternoon, so I probably won't be able to join next week.
Well, as long as your committee does a lot of work, that's good, Ron.
Well, we're trying.
That's good.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys. Have a great rest of the Wednesday. We're going to keep the numbers down across the board. Thanks to everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you all very much. Have a good day.
Okay.